All right, so looks like we have everyone. So welcome again. Let's go ahead and get started to our fourth Urban Alliance Leaders Like Me event. It's a series of youth-led conversations Urban Alliance is holding with leaders of color. So great to see all of our students on video from across the country, as well as our guests from the UA community. Before we get started, though, and I introduce our phenomenal student MC, I do want to go over a few quick housekeeping notes. One, please remember to stay on mute. Also, this meeting is being recorded, and we will share the recording with all attendees after the event. And lastly, during the conversation, if you have questions, feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat. We'll be keeping a track of that, and make sure to call on you towards the end so you can ask your question of the speaker. With that, very excited to introduce our phenomenal student MC. I'm sure in the not so distant future, he's going to be back giving his own keynote, and that is Hashim Abu Shanab. Hashim is a senior at Wendell Phillips Academy here in Chicago. He is also a proud alum of the Obama Youth Job Corps. And now, as a senior, he is a UA intern at tech company Relativity. So please, everyone, take a moment and help me give a warm welcome to Hashim. Please take it away.
Okay. Hello, everyone. I'm Hashim. I'm so excited to be interviewing Michael Strautmanis today. Mr. Strautmanis is Executive Vice President of the Civic Engagement at the Obama Foundation. 4 years ago, Urban Alliance partnered with the foundation to launch the Obama Youth Job Corps here in Chicago, which I was part of. Before joining the Obama Foundation, Mr. Strautmanis spent a decade in Washington, D.C., working to increase access, economic opportunity, strengthen the judicial system, and champion equity and inclusion in roles in the White House, federal agencies, and Congress. After President Obama's first term, Mr. Strautmanis joined the Walt Disney Company, where he led the initiative to deepen the impact of their corporate social responsibility program. Mr. Strautmanis earned both a Bachelor of Science in Advertising and a law degree from the University of Illinois, and is active on several community boards. Welcome and thank you for being here today. Let's get started. Before we dive into your career journey, we'd like to briefly address the recent surge in violence against people of color and yesterday's verdict in the Derek Chauvin trial. President Obama released a statement yesterday about the often difficult but always necessary work of making the America we know more like the America we believe in. Can you take a moment to speak about the work that remains to be done and the role the foundation and as we as young people can play in that?
Well, how much time do we have? No, I will try to keep this. I'll try to keep this one tight, but it's a very important question, and because I think, frankly, of all the things I could be doing with my time right now, talking to you, Hashim, talking to the other students is the most important thing, frankly, that's on my schedule, maybe even this year, because we can't continue in the way we are right now. Things are not only troubling, but if you're on the streets of Chicago, if you're on the streets of many of our cities and communities, I think you say things are getting worse. People are facing more violence. The violence that they're facing is more visible, and it's unacceptable. And the thinking and the ideas that got us here are not going to be the thinking and the ideas that get us out. And so part of the work that has to be done and the path forward is, we need young people who can imagine a different future to continue to pull us forward to be able to make that real. And I think it's, a very practical, straightforward situation because, I think right now we have a lot of what I call sort of hashtag activism, where the goal is to call the thing out, or to say the thing that gets people upset, to call the thing out, and some exchange is had between two sides, And the only people that seem to win in that situation are the people who own TikTok and Instagram, because they make more money with all of that activity. And I think the work that needs to be done really is in communities with people who share the same values, but may disagree on things. And there's just, practical example. Hashim, you're in Chicago. A friend of mine, a guy I know in the southwest of the city, started talking to store owners who were refusing to sell fresh food. You couldn't find fresh groceries in the neighborhood. That's a situation that is common in so many of our neighborhoods. People call that food deserts. And so young people went to him and said, we don't want to eat, I don't know if they still have this anymore, but when I was a kid, Funyuns and Now and Laters and, Cherry Pop, and what the store owner said was that, fresh food spoils. The reason why that stuff is all bad for you is it has preservatives in it. It has a bunch of stuff that's not real food, but it stays on the shelf and it doesn't spoil. And like, people aren't going to buy this stuff. My food is going to spoil. I'm going to lose money. And so these young people went and organized within their neighborhood and said, hey, if you put this fresh food out there, this fruit and vegetables, these people will buy it. And look, the store owner of a grocery store in the community, in the hood, let's just say it, and a young person of color, they don't probably agree on much of anything, except the new Captain America sucks. Beyond that, they disagree on a whole lot of things, but they found common ground on something that was critical for the community and were able to move things forward. And if they had spent all their time critiquing each other on Facebook and talking bad about each other, nothing would have changed. And so being in dialogue at the community level around practical things to make things better for people's lives is what it's all about. And young people, you see it. You see the gap, you see the difference between the world that exists and the world that you want to live in. And I just tell you to help us close it. That's the work that needs to be done.
Thank you for addressing such an important topic. Let's pivot to your career. Can you give us a quick summary of your career journey and tell us more about your position as Executive Vice President of the Civic Engagement?
Wow. So I'm a Chicago kid. I was born on the South Side, but my family fell apart when I was really young. My father left us before I was born. He and I are really good friends now, and so I believe in miracles because I've lived it. He and I are very close. But my mother remarried an immigrant from Eastern Europe, from Latvia. And we moved to a different part of immigrant neighborhood on the north side of the city. And so I sort of grew up in between those two communities. I had big dreams. I went down to college. You said I went to the University of Illinois. I went there as a theater major. I was a loudmouth kid. And so someone, instead of getting me in trouble, decided to see if they could put me on stage. And so I was doing that, but always was concerned about, issues of justice and service, the things that my parents taught me, who were both school teachers. I ended up going to law school because I thought that was the opportunity to make the biggest difference. Also, that was the thing that impressed my girlfriend, who's now my wife. So that turned out to be a good decision. And I met a young lawyer who had a kind of heart for mentorship, named Michelle Robinson. And, she sort of took me under her wing and became a mentor of mine. And I was her mentee, and she introduced me to her fiance, this kind of hotshot young guy named Barack Obama. And, we started to dream about the world we wanted to see and talk about family and talk about being a father and, what happens in life when you don't have a father around. And I ended up going to Washington, D.C. to work in politics after working in the legal community for a while. And was there when my friend ran for the U.S. Senate and won. And so, I started to help him on that journey, worked for him in the Senate, advised him on different issues. Same in the White House. And after the first term, decided I was gonna kind of try to understand and learn the business community. I know, Hashem, you're going into business, gonna learn business in school and undergrad. And so I wasn't as smart as you were, so I didn't do it till I was like 40. So I went to the Walt Disney Company to follow something that I really enjoyed and loved, and started to work there on what's called corporate social responsibility, really helping that company do good in the world, and focus its effort for impact. And as I was doing that, I got called back into service as President Obama was beginning this foundation in my hometown of Chicago. And it was just a thrill to be able to come back and be a part of this journey, helping to create a cultural institution. Because, when I was a kid, it was libraries and museums, and, those were my babysitters. That's where I would get dropped off. And I had an opportunity to dream there and look at the world beyond myself and my circumstances. And so it's just really cool to be now part of creating the Obama Presidential Center in Chicago, and the different programming around leadership development, the My Brother's Keeper work, this cool thing called the Obama Youth Job Corps, in a partnership with Urban Alliance. And so, yeah, I have a great job. That's a little bit about my career path.
Okay, thank you for sharing your answer. Part of the Obama Foundation mission is to cultivate leaders of color who will create change in their communities. As a leader of color in prominent roles in both DC and Chicago, what was your journey like? What advice do you have for the next generation as we navigate a system that is not built to work like for us?
Yeah, I'll tell you a story. When I was, I love movies. And as you know, I was going to be an actor, and I learned about this character, this sort of stock character that was part of a Black stereotype, character called Stepin Fetchit, slow of speech, slow of thought, there for comic relief. But in the complicated journey of our people, that was also a job in film and in the movies. And so there was a character there made to allow folks to laugh at the stereotype of our people, reinforcing the sense of superiority and white supremacy. So I learned about all of that, and because I was this conscious actor, I was going to go do other things. And when I was a young law clerk, this is while I was still in school, a year actually after I met the Obamas, I was in a big firm, and I'd had a law clerk job. I bought a couple of suits. I had gotten good grades. In law school, I felt like I was on my journey and had done all the right things. And I walked out of my office one day, and the receptionist said, as I approached, "There's Stepin Fetchit." And I was like shocked, hurt, angry, afraid, because I didn't know what to do. In my family, I didn't have any place else to go. There was no safety net for me, right? If I didn't do well in this job, I wasn't going to get the next job. And then all the things that I wanted to get done for law school was kind of up in smoke. I was about to get engaged that summer. And so, I went and I talked to her, and she basically told me that she thought I was stupid enough to not understand what that reference was. And so I kind of carried that with me. And I think the challenge that really exemplifies is, we're not where we want to be as a society yet, right? We're not at a place where I can expect to be treated based upon what I do and what I bring to the table completely. People bring biases to deal with me, which means I have to also understand that I bring biases to deal with other people. We are in an imperfect world. I don't know if you all know that. We're in an imperfect world. And so really the question that I had to ask myself, and the question that I've had to ask myself continually, is, what's my goal? What am I trying to accomplish? And it will be different in different situations. Sometimes what you're trying to, now, I went and talked to her. I confronted her about it. I went and told, I wasn't going to say anything. And my friend told me, I got to say something to the people who were running that law firm. And so I went and told them about what happened. And so part of my goal was I had to kind of stand up for myself and make sure people understood that was unacceptable. Part of my goal was to get through that summer and get a job, because I had a wife and family to take care of. And I had a career path that I wanted to move forward and go down. The last thing I'd say about all of this is that I was able to make those decisions because I had a community around me. I had friends, I had family members, I had people who I could call who wanted what was best for me. There were people who could have essentially reinforced my worst instincts. There were people who could have told me hey, don't say nothing, man. You just need to get this job and get out of there. And by the way, I did have people who told me that. But I was able to navigate that and pull forward because I had this community around me. And I would just say, as you walk into life, you walk into the workplace, you're not going to walk into a perfect place. You're going to walk into a place with human beings, with flaws, with fears, with sins, with baggage, and with their own hopes and dreams. And so you have to kind of prepare yourself for that. And one of the things I think I see often particularly with young people, particularly coming out of college, and I'm gonna look at you, Hashim, as you come out of Michigan or wherever you end up going, is you can create an environment in college often in which, a challenge like that, somebody says something to you, everybody can attack that person, you can deal with it. You're in this kind of safe environment that, you're paying them money. Right? Your parents, your family, yourself, you're paying them money to create that environment for you. You can demand a certain kind of environment. Man, you get out in the world, you're not paying them, they're paying you. And so the power dynamic is a little bit different, and you're gonna have to build a set of skills to be able to navigate that. The good news is that as you navigate it, you can improve it, not only for yourself, but for the next person, and build the kind of skills so that you can be the person who runs the thing. You can be the person who sets the environment. You can be the person that sets the tone. That's what progress is. And that's kind of the lesson that I've learned along the way.
Thank you for sharing such a personal story and answer. A lot of our students are interested in giving back and serving their communities. As someone whose career has been defined by service and community engagement, what advice do you have for students interested in pursuing a service-driven career?
The first piece of advice I'd have to say to people who are pursuing a service-driven career is whether it's your prayer, your spiritual life, your meditation, your sleep, your vitamins, your vacation schedule, your family, steel yourself for a painful experience because you're going to lead with your heart. And as you lead with your heart is going to get broken. It's just how it is. It's going to be and I wish I had something a little bit more uplifting to share with you first. But it will be a series of disappointments and heartbreak. And by involving yourselves in the betterment of others, you will, in a very short period of time, one, get a tremendous amount of responsibility. Not a lot of hierarchy in service-driven organizations. You want to go work at Facebook, you're gonna have to work your way up for a while. But you want to go serve, you're going to be thrown into the fray early on, get a lot of experience, a lot of engagement. You're going to learn a lot of lessons. It's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to test yourself. And you're going to build a community very quickly because of the mission nature of what you're doing. You know, everybody that wakes up around you goes to get started is going to be there for the same reason that you're there. That was actually the biggest shock for me when I went to corporate America. I was not, I had worked in nonprofits and government and politics for such a long time. I was kind of used to everybody kind of being there for the same reason. And, you know, in a lot of these companies, that's just not how it works. You know, people are there for a whole bunch of reasons. Some people just want to get paid. Some people want a job. Some people want what's best for the company only. Some people are trying to achieve something else. It's a vast variety of mission orientation. But in the service world, everybody's there to do the thing that the thing was there created to do. And that is just a fun way to work, and a really fun way to live. But you know, you're going to, if your job is to, I don't know, you know, I have family that, you know, grew up and dug ditches. You know, if your job is to dig a ditch, if the ditch isn't fully dug or someone comes in and fills it up the other day, you can be upset, but it's not going to break your heart. You know, if you're involved in service and in the betterment of the human condition, and something goes wrong, it will be a painful experience, and it will stay with you. So you got to just steel yourself for that experience as you move along that road.
That was an amazing answer. Thank you.
Thanks.
This month we're learning about professional communication.
So positive with your responses, man. I like you. Got me on a roll.
Oh, this month we're learning about professional communication and teamwork. A lot of Obama Foundation staff, like yourself, have been involved in the Obama world for a long time. What have you learned about teamwork and communication from working with this group of people off and on for such a long time?
Don't be a jerk. There's another word I would use, but I'm not going to use it because I'm with a student-run group. But y'all use it. I listen to your music. You listen to stuff way more worse than what I was going to say, but I'm trying to keep a standard here. You know, I speaking of, you know, I have a daughter, and you know, sometimes I'll turn on, she'll be like on my Spotify, and I have a parental, you know, control on there, so like I get the clean version. Some of these clean versions is just literally like no words. You just hear just nothing, you know, you hear and, you know, music, because everything is unclean. Anyway, that's my old man comment for the day. What's the question? Right, communication. Don't be a jerk. I'm literally working today, because I've been with the Obamas for so long, that I started working with 15 years ago. People who recommended me for this job, people who co-signed when it looked like I was going to get the opportunity to do this. And here's the thing that I've learned. People in situations, work settings, you know, you always want to your mind is, I got to get to the person who's who's a big influencer, you know, the big shot. And so people will be sitting around the actual table, the virtual table, literally ignoring or sometimes running over your peers in order to get the attention of the big shot. And when the next opportunity comes, guess who the big shot is going to ask about you? Because I'll be surprised. I won't want to shock you. They really don't know who you are. They're dealing with millions of people a day. They have all kinds of pressure on them. They're not going to like really hone in on, you know, some young person who's scrambling to try to impress them. Might be impressed, but it's not going to really stick with them. And you know, and this is part of what everybody does. You know, you pull people's cards. You all do this all the time when you're like dating or whatever it is you're doing. You ask somebody who knows somebody what that person is like. And if that person, that peer, tells that big shot that you treated them poorly, or you didn't pull your weight, or you know, ran them down, or you know, kind of tried to take credit for their work, that's when you're going to lose that opportunity. And if that person goes to your peer and your peer says, you know what, great person, loved working with them, you know, really made the team better, that's when you get that opportunity. And so, you know, pay attention to the people who are around you. And by the way, with this Urban Alliance crew, you have no idea what great things your peers are going to be doing. It happens to me now literally all the time. Somebody that I went to school with, or I was an intern with, or I was in college with, calls me and says, "Hey, you know, I'm doing this great thing. You know, can you help me, or do you want to join me, or can you do something?" So, you know, being a part of, we call the Obama group a family. And I think people often are like, well, you know, man, it's kind of rough. I'm like, well, families are kind of rough. Not everybody likes each other, but you're committed, you're together, you're with each other. And that only comes from a mutual commitment and making sure that you're on that journey together. So that's the only thing I want to share about being part of a group for a really long time.
Oh, thank you. That was such a down-to-earth answer. Okay. Staying on the theme of teamwork and communication, through this program, we learn about the value of building our professional network. What has been most effective for you when building your own network, and what gets your attention when people approach you to connect?
Well, I want to give a shout out to 3 new members of my network. These are Urban Alliance interns. We got Soraya, Maya, Thomas, they're out there. So congratulations, for better or worse, you're now part of my network. And I mean that quite seriously, because I think that there is an opportunity, and some people do this more easily than others. But I think if you take the time to find something endearing about the people that you work with, it could be the way they show up at meetings. It could be what they like to watch on TV, or the snacks, to the question I was asked as the icebreaker earlier. It could be the way someone handled a difficult situation or a difficult day. If you find something endearing about somebody and you tell them that you find that endearing about them, little things like that create bonds between people. And every opportunity that I've had in my life has come from my network. Literally every professional opportunity I have had in my life has come from my network. I have never blind emailed or applied for something. And in the times that I have sort of been in a situation where I've just had to go through a cold process, again, that person has ended up talking to a reference or a friend or somebody like that. And so taking the time to really invest in people, first of all, I just think it makes life more fun. Again, people will disappoint you. So in a way, it's a little bit risky. But if the goal is not to get over or get ahead, but the goal is to connect and make a genuine connection with another human being, then you'll look up after a little while and you'll have a network. And the last thing I'd say is, you know, I've lost jobs. I've gotten fired. I've failed spectacularly on very big stages. And the thing that I was able to rely on in those moments was my network. People who believed in me, people who knew me. These weren't really good friends. These were, I was on the line with, on a thing with Reid Hoffman, guy who created LinkedIn just yesterday. He has this theory of weak ties as opposed to strong ties. Family members are strong ties, right? Those are people who really know you. Weak ties are people who kind of know you. And in an interesting way, there's more opportunity to grow your network with weak ties rather than strong ones. And so I'm not talking about like, you got to be like bosom buddies with these people. And yeah, I got to come over to your house. You know, that's a lot. In fact, that's too much for me. In fact, I got too many people that I got strong ties with coming over. I don't need it anymore. I'm full. But weak ties, people who I've worked with and I've had some connection with, then, you know, that's where growth and opportunity and challenge comes. And those are the people that you can turn to often in your professional network when you're looking to make a change or when something new happens. And you know, last thing I'll say, just to tell a specific story on this, is I was working in government, and there was someone who was a couple tiers ahead of me. I didn't even really know that they knew who I was. I was in a few meetings with them. I then went to another government job working for a member of Congress who ended up leaving Congress for something else. And someone who was paying attention to all of that knew that, you know, the situation was happening, reached out and asked if I was going with that member of Congress to that next thing, because they were looking for somebody to give an opportunity, a job opportunity, and they wanted to know if I was interested. Right? We didn't go to a barbecue together. We didn't, you know, we weren't like, well, Facebook, Instagram didn't exist yet, so we weren't friends on social media for sure. But it was somebody that I had worked with that I had made an impression on at some point. And that created an opportunity for me. And so just paying attention to that, I'd say, is really important.
Thank you for your amazing answer. Since you mentioned difficult moments you faced, what was the toughest lesson you learned in your career?
The toughest lesson I learned in my career was as follows. You know, when I became very afraid of failure. You know, in part because I didn't come from a lot of, you know, circumstances, in part because you know, as I said, I got married young, I had kids young, I had a set of responsibilities, but mostly because I had created an image of myself that I was on a kind of a certain kind of person on a certain kind of trajectory. I kind of created this persona, right? This Mike Strautmanis, who does this, who does that, who listens to this kind of music, who listens to, you know, who always wins, right? And because of that, I got afraid to take risks and to fail. And I started to overly rely on my strengths. And, you know, my strengths are, if you don't know, we all just met, right? I like to talk. I'd like to build relationships with people. I sometimes think I can try to be a little funny to disarm situations. And I started to overly rely on that. And I wasn't really building up my other skills. And when you over rely on your strengths, you get exposed. And I got exposed. I was in a situation where I was not prepared for. And I think the biggest lesson that I learned was there is nothing more crippling than the fear of failure. The fear of failure exists. I was afraid. I got nervous. My staff will tell you, I'm texting them all through the beginning of this. Chris Crater, who works with me on OYJC, Kirsten Jones, who works with me I'm like calling them, texting them, getting all kinds of information before this thing because I was nervous. I wanted to do well. I was like, what are the questions they're gonna ask? You know, who's on there again? All of that. So what should I do? But I didn't stop. I did not do the work. I didn't sit in failure. I wasn't paralyzed by it. I used it as a sign that I had to get to work. And I asked myself, okay, what's the thing that I'm afraid of? Let me go after it and try to tackle that so that I'm prepared. And that really is the biggest lesson I learned. You're going to be afraid. You're going to be afraid either way. So you might as well listen to that voice. Don't run from it. Accept it, and ask yourself, okay, well, like, what are you trying to teach me right now? And then you attack and tackle that.
Such great advice. One last question before we get into our fun lightning round.
I'm definitely taking you with me, Hashim.
Oh,
Every time I'm in a meeting, I'm gonna have you pop up and give an answer. And you'll be like, "That was a great answer."
oh, what is the best advice you received in your career?
I will offer you some advice from Barack Obama. It's pretty good, right? It's got to be good advice. So it actually has to do with the other side of failure, which is we kind of accepted the idea that you're gonna push yourself, you're gonna get out of your comfort zone, right? The thing he told me, and I've heard him tell others this, is whenever you do the thing that you like didn't want to do, like you lost your temper, you said something you didn't want to say, you made a mistake, anything, spend some time in retrospection, asking yourself, why did that happen? Right? If you're a beat yourself up person, okay, beat yourself up a little bit. But then interrogate it. Why did I do that? What was I really afraid of in that situation? Writing, journaling, this is where journaling and writing is key. These are things that, and you gotta be an old man, a second old man comment. Get a piece of paper and a pencil and write it down. Don't type it into your whatever. Because part of the writing is the self-reflection. The time you take to write that stuff down is part of the processing of the situation and what's going on. And what will happen, because this has happened to me before, is you will find yourself in another situation. It will not look the same. It'll be completely different people, completely different perspectives, completely different situation. And because you've processed it, something will say, you know what, the last time I felt this way, this is what I said. And this is why I said it. Let me take a beat and make a different response. And once you make a different response, the amount of self-confidence you'll get from that will be incredible. You'll just be like, oh, I just did a life hack. Like, let me figure out the next situation I need to throw myself into. And let me learn from that. And you will generate a level of, when you see somebody like a Barack Obama, you're like, boy, that guy, he's pretty you got to be pretty self-confident to look at like the whole world and be like, you know what, I should be president. And it comes because he knows himself, because he's done that level of self-reflection, that he knew that, there are a lot of jobs you can have that are big jobs. That job was suited for him because of who he was and because what he wanted to do. And so once he got in it, he was able to like be successful with it. But it only came from that kind of processing and self-reflection that I think is really, really great. So that's the best advice I got for you. Also, don't be a jerk.
Okay, quick lightning round before we go into a question.
All right.
Q&A. Remember to type your questions for Michael in the chat. Okay, lightning round, 60 seconds. Here we go. Last TV series you
Binged. Wow. WandaVision.
Okay. Favorite place in the world?
Paris. And my attic.
Who's your personal hero?
So many. My mom, but after my mom, Jackie Robinson.
Favorite part of your day?
Morning. Early morning before 6 a.m.
Best book you ever read?
Don Quixote. That's
one thing you can't live without.
Answer. One thing I what?
One thing you can't live without.
Pizza.
Yeah. Personal theme song or favorite song?
My personal theme song is Keep On Pushing, Curtis Mayfield.
Phone app you use the most?
Phone app that I use the most, sadly, is Gmail.
Okay. One food you can eat forever?
Pizza.
Yeah. Favorite movie of all time?
Now, everybody knows who works with me. I know 5,000 movies. So I will tell you the movie that I watched last night, which is Red Cliff, which is a new film by John Woo, who is a Hong Kong action movie. He changed action movies forever from Hong Kong. The latest one he did was Red Cliff. This is dope.
Thank you for sharing.
You're welcome.
Back to the serious question. What role has mentoring played
That's
in
a
your
serious
life?
question, John. There's nothing more serious than John Woo. But go ahead.
What role has mentoring played in your life, and what should young people look in a mentor?
Well, I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for mentoring. You know, one of the things my mom did really early on is my as I told you, my family, my birth father left when I was really young, but then my parents got divorced. My adoptive father was still in my life, still in my life. So now I got two fathers, which is pretty good. But during the time when they were divorced, my mom really tried to get a lot of men in my life. So a lot of mentors. Some of them were total goofballs, but a couple of them were pretty cool. My uncle and others. And so, you know, I think I learned really early on that mentors could open a world up to me that I didn't see for myself. And I ended up really gravitating towards mentors who would help me accountable. That was sort of something that was really important to me, and I think is really important in relationships. Like someone who's gonna, call you on your stuff. But because of that, mentoring relationships are they're kind of intimate. They're meaningful in that way, which is why you should not want a drive-by mentor. You should not just want to have somebody be your mentor because you've decided that, you want them to be a mentor because of whatever status or their resume or what have you. It should be because of a personal relationship. Now, part of what some of our young people have is they have really important mentoring relationships in their community. These are the people who keep them out of trouble, who look out for the young people, but they're struggling in the neighborhood just like everybody else, so people overlook them, right? But these are people in the community that we need to be investing in, that we need to be supporting, and that young people can look to for support rather than looking kind of outside of their circumstances. But the other thing that can happen, and you all have done this, is put yourself in a position where you're, again, out of your comfort zone, meaning maybe outside of your community, in a place that you don't know that well, and see who you connect with there, who you have a connection with, who you admire because you see them. Last thing I'd say is, this may be a little harsh, but what the heck. I'm busy. I got 3 kids, a wife. You all heard the resume. I'm on nonprofit boards. I got like a really busy job. As you can imagine, it can be a little demanding. Don't come to me asking me to do a bunch of stuff for you. Like, if I could do it, it's an easy way for me to like, well, yes or no. Like, all right, well, I can and I can't, and it's over. You don't have a mentoring relationship. Every mentoring relationship I had was because I went to the person who I worked with, who wanted to work with, and I got down with what they were doing. I got myself engaged in what they were about. Mostly because what they were about was what I wanted to do or what I wanted to learn about. And so I was much more of a volunteer than a mentee at first, right? I appreciate, that you all have paid internships. I think that was something that was not a thing when I was coming up. So I was always working a bunch of side hustles. Like I was a bike messenger and I was doing this, or I was selling t-shirts and I was doing that. But now that you have this, if you have like an internship that's paid, then maybe take your time to spend some other time volunteering for something or with somebody who you admire. And then once you, frankly, impress them or connect with them as you're doing that work, that's where an authentic mentorship relationship will begin. It takes a little more effort. It takes a little more time. It's not something that you can get immediately. But yeah, like please don't send me a LinkedIn message telling me that you want me to be your mentor. That's not the way that works. That's not even a mentoring relationship if something happens out of it. That's me being nice, because people were really nice to me and I feel like super guilty about it. So it's hard for me to say no. I know, and I just like set myself up. But that's you want a mentoring relationship because that's one that will stick with you over time. And that's one that will be meaningful to you and will help you grow, which is the whole point of having a mentor.
Okay. We're running a little bit over time, but would you like to take some questions from our students?
No, yes, I'm happy to.
Okay, Q&A time. Please forgive me if I pronounce anyone's names wrong. First up, we have is Soraya Scott from Chicago. Please unmute yourself and ask your question.
Great to see you again, Dr. Straut. It's wonderful working with you and being a part of the Obama Foundation. You guys don't even know it's wonderful being a part. He's a great leader, great CEO, great everything. My question to you was, I know you had kids at a young age, was married at a young age. Would you go back in time and change the past if you could, or would you keep everything the same?
I would keep everything the same for two reasons. The first is one of the greatest gift God ever gave me was my wife. And everything that I've done has been possible because of that relationship. But I also wouldn't change it. And this is, I don't know whether this is me like kind of making something up as I go along or whether it's truly the way it was. But I have this is why storytelling and movie watching and reading is also so important, which is I have a narrative perspective on my life. I have a story. My life is a story to me, full of triumph and tragedy and ups and downs and great things and horrible mistakes. But when you have that mindset, one of the things that's happened is I don't see setbacks as the end of the story. It's horrible, it's awful, I feel terrible about it, I feel very down, I've gotten depressed before, I have, had things happen, but I don't see them as permanent. I think scientists call that now a growth mindset. I think I've cultivated over time a growth mindset, probably something my mom did. Let's give my mom credit. I think my mom was the one who helped me get a growth mindset. But I do think of it as a narrative. And because of that, as I look back, it all kind of works out. Even the things that happened that were bad, I learned a lesson from, or I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. I got put on another path to move forward. And so I think that is important. And I think you could have a narrative mindset at any age. Soraya, I think you could look back at your experience right now and tell yourself a story where you're the hero of your own story. So I think if there's anything I'd say is if you make yourself the hero of your own story, and you won't look back on life with any regrets.
Thank you, and that's great advice.
Yeah.
Okay. Next up, we have Tiffany Hunter from Detroit.
Hello. My question would be, what is one of your greatest achievements or something you consider a greatest achievement?
I helped get Barack Obama elected president. That was pretty good. But that wasn't really my achievement at all. It wasn't really even his achievement. I think my greatest achievement, the thing that I'm the most proud of, let's put it that way, I have a hard time answering that question, is actually back to the network question, which is, I look now at all of the people who I gave a job to or recommended for an opportunity or gave some advice to, and I see all the incredible, cool things that they're doing. And I had a small part to play in that. And having a small part to play, this is another reason why service is such a great thing to experience. having a small part to play in the incredible lives of people is like one of the most satisfying things I've ever experienced. And then I'm not limited by my own achievements because I'm just one person. And you know, as much fun as I have, I can't say that I by myself am going to really be able to achieve anything. But my kids, my family members, my cousins, my friends, my current employees, my former employees, my current bosses, my former bosses, all of that, the movements that I've been a part of, all of that just creates just a sense of achievement and scale that is just cool. So that when people say involve yourself in something bigger than yourself, that's one good reason why to do it, right? So that's how I answer that question.
Thank you for answering the question.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's nice to meet you. Good to see you.
Nice to meet you too.
Get a window into everybody's little, you know, crib and stuff. Good to see.
Okay, last question. We have Noelle Overby from DC.
My question is, what's your favorite thing about your job?
Hey, Noelle. Nice art. So what's the favorite thing about my job? My favorite thing about my job is that my job has me talking to like a very wide spectrum of people. On a given day, I literally will talk to 44th President of the United States, Mayor of the City of Chicago, a religious leader, a mom who decided to volunteer for something, like some super angry person on the street who's upset about, you know, not getting enough jobs in his community, an artist, a young, you know, high school student, you know, college student, like literally in one day. And I think all of those people would think, except for the President of the United States, because this is where I learned this from, that there is something super different about each one of them. And there is. They are all in different circumstances, different ways of life, different backgrounds, different races, different ages, all kinds of things, identities galore. But they all want to get involved in something big. And that's where, like, when I go back to the first question about how do we change the trajectory of where we are in society, what's your big idea? What's your dream? What's the thing that you want to see that doesn't exist today? That is the thing that will get somebody who literally doesn't look like you, is not where you're from, doesn't know anything about you and your family. I bet you will find somebody who shares that dream or wants a piece of it, right? And then whether you get there or not, you will have made a bunch of progress and you will have kind of like seen something created that wasn't there before. And so I've done this enough now that I just believe in it. So now, like when I see a bunch of people who don't look like each other, who don't like have a bunch of things in common, all involved in like one big thing, I get really excited. And that's the thing I want to be a part of. And that's the favorite part of my job. Thanks, Noelle.
Thank you so much, Mr. Strautmanis. It was an honor to speak with you. I'm going to throw it back to Ms. Brianna for us to close out.
All right, Hashim, my next meeting is like in a half hour. Okay, so I'll give you the Zoom coordinates.
Okay.
Wow. Thank you all so much for joining us for our 4th Leaders Like Me event. Michael and Hashim, special thank you to you all for just carrying us through such an inspiring conversation. I want everyone to know who's tuned in that the conversations continue. Next month, we will be speaking with Cecilia Munoz, who served as the director of the White House Domestic Policy Council under President Barack Obama. So you're not going to want to miss that. Please keep an eye out on your email for a registration link. as well as a video of this phenomenal session. Thank you again. Take care and have a phenomenal evening.